Hi everyone, Eileen here. Welcome to Typevolution, where I show you how to evolve through your personality type. I'm your self-awareness and EQ coach, and today we're going to talk about extroversion versus introversion. In particular, how to tell that someone else is an extrovert or introvert. I made a video about extroversion and introversion before, however, I was not really too satisfied with it. I realized it doesn't really exactly help you in a more practical sense. It was more of an abstraction, more of an idea of what the two are supposed to be, and not so much how you can actually tell that someone else is one or the other. So the main 2 points for knowing the difference are energy and expressiveness. Before I go into those two, I want to say that extroversion and introversion have almost nothing to do with how much you're into social activities, politics, and so on, or how much you're focused on preserving yourself, focused on your health, and things like that. These are the topics, the matters, which you can be occupied with. Those are your drives. And I made a video about that before, please watch the link. But basically, those are the things you can be concerned about. And many people think that extroverts are going to be more about social activities and introverts are more going to be about things you can do inside your own home. But that is actually not true. The real difference is extroversion and introversion are about the way you process information in your brain. And there have been studies that, for example, introverts are overly stimulated more quickly, whereas extroverts tend to be understimulated. The higher your introversion is, the higher the likelihood you're going to be overstimulated by information outside, whereas an extrovert needs more stimulation. Also, I have to point out that there are different degrees of extroversion and introversion. Based on Carl Jung's idea, I do not believe in ambiversion personally. I know that in psychology the idea of ambiversion exists and it makes sense. However, so far I find it more useful to categorize people into those two. And usually someone is either an extrovert or an introvert, but they can lean towards ambiversion. They can be a bit more introverted or a bit more extroverted, but that doesn't really mean that they are in the middle. What do I mean with energy? When I think of energy, I kind of think of a light bulb. So an extrovert is gonna have more energy, basically, in general. They're gonna be, generally speaking, more hyperactive, more on the move, more in motion, literally. And their light is also gonna be much brighter. They have a high luminosity. They are more expansive. Especially extroverts who are also sensors. They are more expansive, especially physically as well. So when they enter a room, you're really gonna feel their presence. It's gonna be really intense. Not always, but usually when they are very extroverted, their presence can be felt. With an introvert who has lower luminosity, who has lower energy levels, they can be easy to miss in a crowd. For example, with me, I'm an introvert and I'm also an intuitive, so when I go outside in public and I walk around, sometimes people are like really startled when I pass them, because they're like, where did she come from? You know, it's like my energy is so low that people cannot really register it. I did not really have this energetic vibe. You know, when someone enters a room, you can just feel them. So this is the kind of energy I'm talking about. It is about this expansiveness and that feeling that someone is in the room. This, as I said, this is very strong with the sensors, the ES types. Not as much with the EN ones. Energy, as I said, extroverts tend to be more hyperactive. They tend to be more on the move. Introverts tend to be able to just be in one place for long periods of time. They are not gonna need to move around so much. However, there can be exceptions. As I said, depending on where you're leaning towards, you might be a bit more ambiverted, so to speak. The problem is also that anxiety can skew things. So someone who's highly anxious, especially an introvert who's highly anxious, is going to be more fidgety as well, but that does not mean they are really extroverted. They just lean towards extroversion. On the other hand, some extroverts are really shy, so shyness is a matter of insecurity and anxiety, and basically that makes them more inhibited. You probably know this idea of the bubble. Okay, this is not a nice bubble. But basically, introverts have this invisible bubble around them. It is like a membrane. There's like a layer between them and the outside world. You can see it in the way they often... Okay, this goes into expressiveness, but you can see it in the way how sometimes their eyes glaze over and they're just looking into space like that. Or they have very slow eye movements. This is the matter of expressiveness. But basically, it is like they seem to be looking inside while they are having their eyes open. It's like they're not really there. With extroverts, that's not really the case. Extroverts either have a really intense look, or they're gonna look around a lot, generally speaking. But it's not just about expressiveness and the eyes, it's also really, you can tell that somehow there is a wall almost. Like if the introvert is very insecure or avoidant, then it's going to be a wall. But if they are normal or healthier, then there's more like a membrane between them and the other people. Okay, so okay, that looks like a mouth. I mean the voice. Oh, that's not good. Anyway, so I mean the voice. So an extrovert, generally speaking, has a louder voice, and they use their voice in a way that is either very strong, or they can also be a bit more subdued. But generally speaking, their voice has a louder pitch and tends to be a bit more throughout strong, so to speak. With introverts, it's very easy to tell when someone is very soft-spoken, especially when someone has like a very low energy coming out of their voice. Like they tend to speak very quietly. This is a problem I have. Like people always, not always, but many people complain that I talk not loud enough. You know, when you're the kind of person where the other one always has to come in like, what did you say? You know, then you know, okay, oh yeah, I'm probably an introvert because the voice I'm emitting is not strong enough or loud enough. Yeah, so that's a good sign. Soft-spokenness. Introverts are usually soft-spoken. It's another way how their introverted energy comes out. So there are two types of soft-spoken voices. They are either like more melodic and more feelery, basically. This is common for IF types. Or they're more monotone. Monotone, very dry. This is more common of IT types. There are different voice types. I would show you examples here, but I cannot do that. I'm not allowed to do videos like that. Copyright issues, so I'm just gonna mention a few celebrity examples. So for soft-spoken voices, Michael Jackson is pretty well known for having a soft-spoken voice. Lana Del Rey. Those are very clear examples. For louder voices, someone like Gordon Ramsay is a good example. And Oprah, I think, is actually a good example as well. Oprah has not as much of the physical kind of energy, but the emotional energy of hers is pretty big and intense. And I find it kind of ironic that she identifies as being more introverted, but she is a typical extrovert in my opinion, even in the way that not only her energy is and how she seems to process information, but also in the sense that she is the social instinct first. I suppose because she is self-preservation second, that she can relate to that aspect of herself. Self-preservation is usually associated with introversion, so I can see it there, but energy-wise, she's a very clear example of an extrovert. And she's also very expressive. She's a stereotypically expressive extrovert. EF types are usually very expressive. The kinds of people who are very talkative, who can talk non-stop, those are usually EN types. So they talk and talk and talk and talk. Also ESF types can talk a lot like that. It's just very talkative people. People who tend to be more quiet are very obviously more introverted. That's not really hard to tell. So someone who's very talkative is easily recognizable as an extrovert. I also think that Kelly Ripa is a good example of an ESFJ. Very talkative, very loud. You probably know the resting bitch face. So that's also a sign of introversion, by the way. Resting bitch face is very common for IT types, and also types who are introverted feeling first, which are an MBTI, INFP, and ISFP. Those people often have a resting bitch face. As I said, they are less expressive. INFJ and ISFJ, having extroverted feeling second, are kind of different because extroverted feeling is extroverted, so they can be more emotionally expressive, but it's still very different from an extrovert. You can tell that their energy levels are lower. They are not moving so much. They are very slow people. They are very quiet usually. So those are the signs. So as I said, there are cases of people being sort of ambiverted. For example, Jordan Peterson is a pretty famous example, and he identifies as an extrovert. However, I find it quite evident that he's actually an introvert who leans towards ambiversion/extroversion. He is, in terms of instincts, either sexual or social instinct first, which tends to also come across as more extroverted in outlook and energy. But if you look at pictures of him, if you look at videos of him, the way he talks is also very more monotone, more dry, and also his energy levels are quite low. You can tell that he's not emitting much energy or expansiveness at all. He's an INT type, in my opinion, INTJ, so there is not much of an energy output. And he's also not expressive in his face most of the time. Like, he almost never smiles. It's like very stoic, and that is very common for INTJ and ISTJ types who don't really value FE, extroverted feeling. So another example that could be misconstrued as ambiverted is Michael Jackson, who was social instinct first and who had a good stage presence. That was his extroverted sensing. By the way, we all have extroversion and introversion in us, just to different degrees. But he was very soft-spoken. He had like this membrane between him and other people. So he was basically an ISFP. He was an introvert, but he had a good connection to his extrovert sensing, and he was very interested in social causes and so on. So you might mistake him for an extrovert if you didn't really know the differences. Okay, so I hope that made a bit more sense. If you would like to know more celebrity examples, then please go to my website viptypology.wordpress.com. If you want me to type you, or maybe even someone else, then go to my Facebook page, Typevolution. And I would also really like it if you joined our group, and if you like, share and subscribe. Okay, have a good day. Bye!